Hey kids, how you doing today? My name is Tom Love. I'd like to show you and talk about a neat way of learning mathematics. And this is so simple and so easy, every student can learn it. Every student will do so well, and it's so easy, they'll want to do more mathematics. And I know none of us like to do things that we don't like and aren't good at. But why not being good at mathematics and want to do more of it and get good grades? Well, let's get started here and take a look at this neat way to learn mathematics. All right, this unique approach to mathematics is called the garden approach. And what it does, it plants all the different number types and lets you work on them all at the same time. And the numbers are whole numbers, fractions, mixed numbers, decimals, exponents, radicals, proportions, and percents. Now, they're so easy, I guarantee you they will work. Now, take my word for it and stick with me. All right, now the whole numbers. The whole numbers, when we start out with these, you won't have to carry, you won't have to borrow. There'll be single digit multiply, and the division, it won't have a remainder. Now you can even use the calculator to help you check your answers. Well, let's go ahead and get started here with the first problem. Now if you look at the first problem, you can see all we're doing is adding a couple numbers. And I'll bet you can do that real easy. All you do is take the 302 and you add the 74. All right, now you go ahead and work on it, hit pause, and then I'll keep moving. You catch up with me. Well, the answer is really 376. I'll bet you got that. Now, the next answer, simple subtraction, and it's 465, and you want to subtract 112, or not 112, but 12. Okay, now let's subtract it, and you end up with a 3, a 5, and a 4, so you end up with 453. Nothing to this, right? Now remember, when I start to do the problem, you hit pause and work it out on a piece of paper and then work with me. The next one we're going to multiply, and what we do is we multiply 5 times 12. Now hit the pause, you work it out, and then come back and check see if you got it. The answer turns out to be 60. No problem at all. Now the next one, you can see we have to be careful here because many times in mathematics you're given that symbol and it means divide. So you have to actually take the 3 and make it your divisor and then put the other number inside. And that's pretty easy because we take 3 and we divide it into 396 and we get 1, 3, 2, and that turns out to be the answer, 132. Now, nothing to it. When you start the garden approach to mathematics, you will do whole numbers, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You won't have to carry, you won't have to borrow. You have single digit multiply with no remainders. Everybody's bound to get those right. All right, now let's do some fractions. And guess what? These should not be any trouble at all. Now look at this. Here we have to take 3 sevens and we want to add 2 sevens. Now remember, all you have to do is add the tops. Now go ahead and do it. Hit the pause. Well, I'll bet you got the answer. It's 5 sevens. Nothing to it. Now remember, you don't add the bottoms, you just add the tops. All right, now we're going to subtract. We're going to take 7 ninths and subtract 5 ninths. Now, just subtract the tops, not the bottoms. Hit the pause and get the answer. I'll bet you got it. It was 2 ninths. Well, let's go ahead and do some multiplying now. Now, with multiplying, it never changes. It's always the same, and it's so easy. When you multiply fractions, all you do is you multiply the top numbers and you multiply the bottom numbers. Now hit pause and go ahead and write your answer down. I'll bet you got that one. It's 8/15. Nothing to it, right? Okay, now let's try the next one. Now division's a little bit trickier, but it tends to be tricky unless you change it to multiply. So it's no big deal. When you divide fractions, and remember that symbol means divide, you invert or flip over the second fraction to 7/5, and then you multiply just like you did above. Now multiply was easy above, so when you multiply the top numbers and you multiply the bottom numbers, you should get the answer. Hit pause and write your answer down. And you should have got 14/15. Nothing to it, right? Okay, now remember that multiply and divide really never change. They may have to be reduced as the answer, but the basic procedure is the same. Let's go on and look at some more numbers. Now we need a little help before we get into mixed numbers. And the help basically is we have to know how to change improper fractions to mixed numbers, and we have to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now just let me show you how easy it is. Here is an improper fraction. If you remember, the top is always bigger than the bottom on an improper fraction. What you do is you take the bottom and divide it into the top, and that gives you 1, and there's 3 left over, so you get 1 3/5. Let's change this one to a mixed number. You take 4, divide it into the top, and it goes in 2 times with 1 left over, so you get 2 1/4. Let's try the next one. You take 3, you divide it into the 8, it goes in twice with 2 left over, so you get 2 2/3. So see, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? We changed an improper fraction to a mixed number, and you know the word improper means wrong. Okay, now let's do the reverse. Let's change a mixed fraction or a mixed number into an improper fraction. All right, here we go. We change 2 1/5 to 11/5. So we multiply the bottom times the number and get 10. Then we add the top and get 11/5. The next one, we multiply the bottom of the fraction times the whole number, which is 3. We add the top and we get 4/3. And the last one, we multiply the bottom of the fraction times the whole number, then we add the top, and we get 13/4. Nothing to it, right? This is probably the most important one, even though we still have to do the other one too. All right, now let's put this to work. Here are some mixed number problems. Now addition and subtraction are easy. You won't have any trouble with that at all. But look at this problem. It says 4 3/8 added to 5 2/8. Now look at it. We got 3/8 and 2/8. If we add the fractions and then add the numbers, we shouldn't have any trouble at all. See? Add the numbers, then add the fractions. So if we add the numbers, hit pause and write your answer down. I'll write it down. You come back and check me. And I'm sure you got the same answer I did. It was 9 5/8. All right, the next one, we're going to subtract fractions. Now look how easy it's going to be. 5 7/9 minus 3 2/9. All right, now remember, we're just going to subtract the numbers, then subtract the fractions. Now hit the pause, write down your answer, and catch up with me. I'll bet you got the same answers I did. When I subtract the numbers, I get 2, and when I subtract the answers, the fractions, I get 5/9. All right, now we have to put a little bit of that work we did on the previous slide together here. We have to change, when we multiply, we have to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions and then just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So we take this fraction, 1 1/3, and change it to 4/3. We take 1 1/2 and change it to 3/2. That wasn't too hard. Remember how you did that? Now just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. That would be 4 times 3, which is 12, and then 3 times 2, which is 6. All right, now we have to reduce this improper fraction, and 6 goes into 12. I bet you got that one real easy. That was 2. Nothing to it. So look at fractions. They're not any trouble at all. We just add the fractions and add the numbers, and we already know how to add fractions, so this is no big deal. And when we multiply, we just change them to improper fractions and multiply them like we did the fractions. All right, now let's look at division of mixed numbers. We change this mixed number into an improper fraction. Now remember, 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1. Then we change this mixed number into an improper fraction, and that would be 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Then we invert or flip over the second fraction and get 2/5, and we multiply. Now we know multiply is easy. We just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. All right, hit pause, write down your answer, and catch up with me. I'm sure you did well on this one. The answer is 14/15. Now I want you to think about it. Look what we've done. We've looked on whole numbers, which were real easy. We looked at fractions, which were real easy. And now we've done mixed numbers, which tend to be hard, but I'll bet you didn't have any trouble with all. All you have to do is change them to improper fractions and multiply the tops and the bottoms. And when you did the add and subtract, it was easy. You just added the whole numbers and added the fractions. Well, let's see what's next. All right, and here we're getting into decimals. Now, remember when you do decimals, it's really nice to do the way you've been taught traditionally, and then use a calculator to check your answer. The calculator's your friend, and it checks your answer for you. But do it first with mental math and the way you've learned, and then check it with a calculator. Now watch this first problem. Now remember, the garden approach to mathematics starts all these numbers at the same time, but to make them so easy and so simple, every student can do well. In this first problem, we're going to add $3.07 to $5.02. Well, you know that you put the 5.02 right underneath that one. You line up the decimal points, and then you just add them. Well, hit pause and write down the answer and see if you get the same thing I do. I got $8.09. And I'll bet you if you think about money, you won't have any trouble at all. All right, now we're going to subtract. And when we subtract decimals, we line up the decimals again. So we're going to subtract. We're going to take $7.80 and subtract $3.60. So I put the $3.60 underneath. All right, now hit the pause and write down your answer and see if you got what I got. I got $4.20. No problem at all. So see, adding and subtracting decimals is easy. Now what you need to do is use your calculator and help yourself with that. Use the traditional way, use your mental math, and use the calculator as your friend. Now when you multiply decimals, the best way to do it is just multiply the numbers and then figure out the decimal point. And the easiest way to do that is this number is 11 and that number is 7. And that's easy to multiply. 7 times 11 is 77, isn't it? So we'll just put that in the blank. Now we got to figure out the decimal point. And the best way to remember that is you want to be fair. Remember, here's the equal sign. You got to have the same thing on the left as you do on the right. Now, do you see here, this number had 2 numbers behind the decimal, and this had 1 number behind the decimal. So if you have 3 numbers behind the decimal on the left, you have to have 3 numbers behind the decimal on the right. So we got to add a 0 and put a point right here, and we end up with 0.077. Multiply the numbers and then figure out the decimal point, but be fair. Okay, the next one, we're going to divide decimals. Now, traditionally, you have been taught when you divide decimals, you have to change it. Now, see, you're given it this way, like on a test or whatever, and that means divide. This number goes on the outside, and this number goes on the inside. Now, what we do is we multiply these numbers so that the number on the outside, the divisor, turns out to be a whole number. Well, the only way we can make a whole number is multiply that times 100. Now, it's only fair if we multiply that by 100, then we have to multiply the other one by 100. So we end up with 2 divided into 70. All right? No big deal, right? So multiply and make your divisor a whole number, then divide it out. Now, also use your calculator and see if you get the right answer. So this is a great way to check to see if you know mental math, traditional math, along with calculator math. All right, now here we go. 2 goes into 14 7 times. And then, of course, it doesn't go into 0 at all, so we end up with 70. That's the final answer. Hey, this is not bad at all. We've done whole numbers, fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals. All right, now let's see if we can get in some ones that